Welcome to Freaky Fauna Friday, where every Friday we take a little time and explore some of the freaks of nature from around the planet we cherish so deeply. So please, jump aboard and let's explore the wilds together.
Oh, yes.
Welcome back to Freaky Fauna Friday.
It was good to be back.
I'm the great and peaceful mystery.
And I'm Jay.
Just Jay?
Yep.
Good.
It's Friday. It's Friday, Jay.
Friday, Jay. There we go.
I'm in my vacation clothes.
Vacay Friday, Jay.
That's right.
Hooray.
Hooray. What are we talking about today?
You got any guesses?
What you might say?
I've had this animal before. This is a really cool animal. They have the same powers as Wolverine.
Adamantium claws?
Basically, before the adamantium. It wasn't his power. Remember, they injected him with adamantium.
Yes. It's self-healing.
They could shoot. These animals can shoot spurts of bone outside of their body as a defense mechanism.
So that part of Wolverine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any guess?
No, we have talked about this. It's something that shoots out its back, ain't it?
Yeah, I've had these animals.
Yeah. What is it?
Spanish ribbed newts.
Ribbed newts, that's it.
Spanish ribbed newts. These big, goofy, bumpy things are very common once you get into the pet trade industry as far as newts and salamanders. I don't ever advise anybody. Newts and salamanders are very, very specific pets, and they're very expensive anymore because when I used to breed newts, I cannot tell you how many people would be like firebelly newts, for example, Japanese firebelly newts or Oriental firebelly newts. They used to be like $4 at the pet store, $2 at the pet store, something like that, because they were all imported. So they were wild caught. They would go catch them out in the wild and bring them over, and they sell them at pet stores for like $2 to $4.
Okay.
Yeah, they're now like $80 a piece.
Or are they like endangered?
Well, no, there's no importing on any newts to North America, or any newts or salamanders.
Oh.
So they ended all of that. So what's here is the problem.
Oh, okay.
So we'll talk about these guys with that kind of stuff. So with the firebelly newts now being like $80 or $90 for tiny little babies, and these old people will just be like, "That's ridiculous. You guys are highway." We're like,
inflation.
Well, there's not. They are used to importation prices.
Right. Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen anymore. They don't exist.
Right.
There are 5 or 6 major colonies in the U.S. is all that's here. I bred fire salamanders. Everybody's heard about that. Why did I sell fire salamanders for $800 to $900 a piece? Because we were one of 3 people that successfully bred them in the U.S.
Oh. So yeah,
there's only them.
That's
the same thing. They used to import them, and they would be like $10 a pop.
Oh yeah, a little different now.
And some people don't get that. People that are in the trade, they know what's here is what's here. Because like a lot of males, males are a lot prettier for newts and salamanders. Mm-hmm. Like they show off like birds.
Oh.
So people would import the males. So there was almost no females here
to reproduce.
Yeah. All right. So sharp-ribbed newts or Spanish ribbed newts or like Iberian ribbed newts. Those are all the same animal. They kind of go by 3 or 4 different names. There's no really records for how big they can get as far as weight. I've seen some really, really chunky ones in captivity. Mm-hmm. These are, if you keep them as pets, like I said, I don't suggest anybody starting with newts or salamanders for pets if you're getting into the reptile amphibian hobby. Salamanders and newts are the most sensitive of those groups. The farthest end from that, though, is probably the Spanish ribbed newts. They're the most forgiving. They are the goofiest as far as they're really active, they're really fun, and they are not scared to eat. So with some of the other species, it really takes some work to get them to eat sometimes.
You got to coax them into it.
They will literally starve themselves to death out of stress.
Yeah.
And these guys will not.
They're ready to eat.
They are pigs. They are like little fun pigs. So you remember when I used to feed them and they'd all go nuts?
I don't.
They were the big white and black ones. They get up to 12 inches long, so that's another thing. They're really big for newts.
Huh.
They can live in the wild up to 10 years, and in captivity, they've been recorded to 12 to 13 years, and one special occasion, 20 years.
That's pretty impressive.
They are carnivores, though.
Okay.
So they eat mostly, animal matter. Most of that's invertebrates and fish.
And mealworms.
So with newts and salamanders, you're not supposed to feed them anything with hard exoskeletons.
Okay.
So if you look at like terrestrial insects,
right?
So like a mealworm's a larva, it has a hard exoskeleton. So that can be really dangerous for newts and salamanders
Oh, wow. Okay.
because it can get impacted, is what it's called.
I didn't
Basically,
know
their
that.
bowels aren't designed to break those things down.
So what do you feed them? Worms?
Mostly worms,
Oh, okay.
and then live-bearing fish. Now, in captivity, these guys do amazing. They're one of the few species that really, really excels as far as enjoying. They love to eat. They are very show-offy. They love to swim. They almost never, ever, ever leave the water as adults. I always had them. I always had a piece of land offered for them.
They never used it?
I've never once seen one use it.
It's like Craytopia.
Well, it's like alligator snapping turtles.
Yeah.
Like they are turtles. These are newts. They are designed to go on land if they want to. Like if you put them on land, they're going to be fine. They're going to walk around, crawl, or whatever.
Right.
They don't want to.
They like the water.
So these are one of the animals I've seen very advanced keepers not offer them land and then be completely fine with it. But yeah, and so like I said, in captivity, they breed extremely well. Pretty much when I had them, every water change, they'd reproduce.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They are they like to have babies. They like to eat. Pretty much salamanders and newts, they'll turn any extra body mass, like fat and stuff, into egg mass pretty quick. Now, a lot of salamanders and stuff, like for fire salamanders I talked about, like they're cycle based. So they need seasonal cycles. They give birth right before winter.
Okay.
So they need the pressure changes is what triggers them to give birth. These guys are triggered by that flush of water. So
wow.
springtime.
Okay.
So you can kind of trick them. You can't do it like, I think it's 6 or 8 weeks in between breeding cycles in captivity. Even though in the wild they probably only breed once, maybe twice a year. Mm-hmm. If you keep changing their water, as long as you keep them full and healthy, they'll keep breeding.
Wow. Okay.
So this next fact, why I put all that for it, is something I don't get about the next fact, is they are threatened. They are IUCN. They may be near threatened or threatened. They're kind of still talking about the status right now. These guys could bounce back so easily with the proper like habitat groups going out there to breed them in captivity and really re-release them.
Right.
They do very well. They are not shy.
Is it just because you can't import them anymore?
Well, this is in the UK. So they're from they're Spanish rib newts. So they're from Spain. So let's talk about that.
So they're endangered over there, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or the whole
They're
world?
near threatened. They only live in a very small area.
Oh, gotcha.
So sharp rib newts, which is the whole species, they're Spanish and Liberian, are owning to the range across the Iberian Peninsula. And populations also occur in Morocco and Africa. So they're kind of right there all around the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
They do still prefer cooler water, though. These newts are an entirely aquatic species, spending almost their entire life cycle underwater. They will hunt pretty much any invertebrate or fish that can fit in their mouth.
Okay.
Like I said, the only reason they ever get out of the water is when they have to.
Yeah.
They don't breed. They breed in the water. Their larvae is in the water. Their food's in the water.
Everything they need's there.
Yeah, so they really don't leave unless like there's a drought or something. They can crawl on land to kind of move around.
Is it kind of like when you're at a theme park, like a water park, and you get the lazy river? You just don't really want to leave. You can eat in there, you can drink in there, you can just hang out in there all day while the kids run around. Same thing.
So during the breeding season, males will take on a reddish hue all over their bodies. Typically, the underside is a paler color, and that's where you can see it the best. So some newts grow really crazy crests. Some get really, really flashy colors. These guys just kind of turn a little bit red.
That's it?
Yeah, because they do a little bit of a different thing. So with most other newt species, using their kind of colors to show off.
Please tell me it's some cool interpretive dance.
It's wrestling.
Oh, it's wrestling. All right.
They actually interlock arms and beat the ever-living poop out of each other.
Like two males will?
Females, so that's a part of the breeding cycle too, is the females will wrestle too.
Oh, they're wrestlers too.
So just that, I can't see how many people have bought Spanish rib newts when we used to breed them and be like, I bought a male and a female and they're fighting. They're, courtship fighting. Why are they fighting? That's just what they do.
Yep.
If there's no other males, the female will fight the male to prove that he's worth it.
Huh.
So the males are generally really thin. They look malnourished compared to the females.
Yeah.
They have really big, flat duck heads, big, goofy eyes, long, rough-skinned bodies, and a big, flat tail they use to swim. They swim like little alligators. The females will look like manatees. They will get so obese because they're putting on that fat to turn into egg mass.
Right, yeah.
So they will literally, and males can get kind of really rotund too. Never as much as a female. It depends on how much you're feeding the aquarium.
Okay.
So your female should always be heavy set compared to your males, even if you're feeding them together and they're eating the same amount.
Right,
Which
yeah.
is what they're doing. So the wrestling, they have these gripping pads, so it looks like they have black pimples all over their arms and legs. And those are actually just for the breeding season to help kind of grip onto each other. Now, they actually have a leucistic variety of sharp rib newts that occurs in captivity. So I always had both. I liked them a lot. If I ever get back into newts, this is one of the species I really want because they're harmless. I talked about the rough skin newts before.
Right. Being very.
They're the complete opposite end.
Yeah.
Those are both the two newts, though, that are the most active in captivity.
Okay.
But for completely
Opposite
different reasons.
Yeah.
The one is poisonous enough to kill you and everybody you know just by thinking about it.
Pretty much.
It's like the old man stare at goats. So their bodies flatten, they adapt, that allows them to easily slip under logs and rock crevices. They're covered in completely like small warts. It gives them a really, really bumpy appearance. They look like they are covered in like toad skin.
Ugh.
But they feel fine. I mean, they just feel. Males typically have really long tails compared to females. The tails of both the tails of both is shorter than the bodies and the snout to vent length. So no matter what, their tail should be shorter than their bodies. They are very long animals as far as newts go. But the males will typically have longer, flatter tails
Than the females.
than the females. During the breeding season, males will typically get these special pads on their legs. They use to grasp females during coupling. The average Spanish rib newt will measure between 6 to 12 inches long. Individuals in North Africa tend to be smaller than those live in Europe, and that's due to temperature constrictions. So they can only really grow during cooler seasons. They stop growing and work on survival during warmer seasons.
Okay.
So the southern part of the range, they don't get as big. Like I said, their diet, they will eat anything. They have even been observed, which is very weird for newts. They have been observed eating carrion,
Carrion.
dead animals,
Oh, okay.
which is extremely odd for newts and salamanders.
Like scavenger.
Yeah. And they will try to eat anything. I've seen them eat each other's legs. Like they are like little alligators.
Like just had a boredom?
If they got 4 foot long,
Yeah.
they'd all be dead.
Interesting.
And
From a newt.
they would like literally have each other's legs in their mouth, and you'd have to pull them out and pull them apart.
Yeah.
Because if they bite something, they don't have teeth. Like they have gripping pads.
But they're not going to let go.
They're not going to let go. It's their range. Europe and Africa. They cover Spain, Portugal, and Morocco is their most of their habitats. They're primarily found in lowland areas that are not found too far above sea level. These animals are entirely aquatic. They make their homes in ponds and lagoons and are located in the scrub and woodlands. The water course is selected often of high levels of vegetation cover. They are really kind of big, goofy, and slow. They will only leave their ponds if the water level begins to fall and they must find a new pond. So that's probably the only time we've ever seen them leave the water willingly is when they can kind of tell their wetlands drying up, so they'll go try to crawl and find another one. Humans have provided additional habitat through the building of dams and irrigation systems. So in some areas, these guys have actually adapted. They've benefited from humans in some areas.
That's shocking.
It's because they
It don't happen often.
No. They're like, you have all these ponds and waterways that there's no fish in? That sounds really good. So they breed up to about twice a year. The first season occurs in early spring, and the second season takes place in midsummer. Like I said, these are really rain-related. So when they have big flushes of water is when they'll breed. Their eggs incubate incredibly quick. Mating occurs, so the males will hold on to the female with his front legs. These mating events occur, then they can last for hours, even days. They'll be locked together. And he'll literally like bang her head into the glass. Like if you have them in an aquarium, they'll bang their head in the glass and they will literally beat the poo out of each other.
Just for the show they're worthy?
Yeah.
Man.
It's a part of the whole cycle. Egg laying occurs 2 days after fertilization of this event. The clutch size varies from female to female. It's always based on body size, with lower numbers being around 100 eggs and upper numbers being around 1,000 eggs. The eggs are deposited on pond plants or stones. Spanish rib newts hatch in a larva, from which they spend as larvae for about 3 months. These animals will seek shelter under stones or will even bury themselves in the mud. Spanish rib newts are not strong swimmers and tend to stick to very slow-moving bodies of water and wetlands. Outside of the breeding season, these animals are primarily solitary. So yeah, they don't really care for each other, but they're not like going out of their way to not be around each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of they just don't care. You can keep them in big groups in captivity. My groups are always 6. I always kept them in groups of 6. in like a 40-gallon breeder tank, which is what the one in the studio is, because they do need space. They're pretty big animals. As long as you feed them well enough, they really don't care. They're not going to fight or nothing like that.
Yeah.
If you don't feed them enough, they will start just trying to tear each other apart. So how do they defend themselves? They're a freaky fauna fact. They defend themselves by injecting poison through their specialized rib bones, which poke through pores in their skin.
That's crazy.
So they have these hinged ribs. So if, let's say, an animal bites onto them, they literally hydraulically shoot the ribs out of their skin. They poke into the skin of the predator, and then they inject poison.
That's pretty good defense.
But they don't look like it. I picked them up. Like, you got to really
mess with them.
Yeah, hurt them.
Yeah.
For them to do this, because it hurts.
Well, I bet.
Their ribs are shooting through their skin.
Well, yeah.
And then they retract their ribs and put them back in place.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They're crazy.
It is like Wolverine.
Yeah, they have it all over. Specialized pores in their bodies let their ribs come in and out without tearing the skin most of the time. They can also use their glands on their back of their heads to release poison. The glands are found on the tail as well. Just like toads, they have these bumps all over their skin that are actually poison glands.
Oh, okay.
These animals are threatened by the destruction of their habitats and pollution. So these guys are very sensitive, like any salamander and newt, to pollution. And most of their native habitats have been destroyed. Like I said, the only reason they're threatened and not endangered is that they have found some solace in man-made constructions.
Man, which, yeah, you would have never expected that.
And it's really because everything else can't.
Right, exactly.
So they
filled the niche.
Fine there because everything else is dead.
What are they eating then?
Mostly insects. Insects will be wherever.
Oh, okay.
Introduced species of fish and crayfish will eat their eggs and larvae, and that's been another big hindrance for them. The American crayfish is destroying a lot of European streams, freshwater streams.
That's not good.
No, because our crayfish tend to be much more aggressive.
How do we get them over there?
It's just, and they're invasive. Probably ballast water, if I had to guess.
Dang, ballast
water.
water.
It's like the gobies. They're from Europe. That's what they got here.
Okay.
So, probably the same thing, but the American crayfish are literally destroying whole ecosystems over there.
That's awful.
Because the animals over there just don't know how to deal with them.
Right, yeah.
They're much more aggressive. And some populations are increasingly falling victim to vehicle strikes.
Getting run over by cars?
Yeah, when they're the seasonal ponds or whatever starting to dry up and they have to move to different ponds.
Oh, okay.
Road construction, they're not very fast on land. They're, like I said, they do not leave the water unless they have to.
Right.
So they're it almost looks like a manatee trying to cross the street. Like they drag their heads and everything. And people run them over on purpose. People run them over on accident. But they do these groups hopping, like they all go over in one group. So one semi-truck can just destroy a whole population of these guys.
Real fast. Like those ferrets that escape from...
Yeah. These animals are also known as Spanish rib newts, Iberian rib newts. Sharp rib newts have also been in laboratory studies for organ regeneration. The test, test related to zero gravity. These guys have been to space.
What?
Yeah. These are one of the animals brought to space to test how aquatic animals do in zero gravity.
Huh.
And I believe you can find the videos of that. It's very interesting to watch.
They probably do all right.
They do better than terrestrial animals.
Yeah, because they're already water's pretty close to that.
Water's closer, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they still have trouble riding themselves.
I could see that.
But they swim pretty well.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, so that's been a Spanish rib newt. I'd never suggest anybody getting into the newt or salamander hobby. But if you ever were, that would be one of the animals to start with. They're pretty forgiving. Because for newts, for example, newts and salamanders, not only do you have to be a master of herpetology to take care of their needs, you have to be an aquarist. You have to take care of aquariums and water and understand water chemistry.
Gosh, it's a lot.
It's really hard to take care of newts and salamanders.
Especially if it's your first one.
Yeah. They die super easy. I've had all kinds of newts, and I've lost colonies of newts due to bacterial infections and stuff because they get bacteria and they just die. They all die
instantly.
And there's 4 grand dead.
That's fun.
There.
That's fun. It's fun to look at.
It's fun. But no, if you ever were thinking about a newt, these are ones that would probably be closer. There's no such thing as a starting species. There's not a ball python in the newt family. But this would probably be the closest thing to it.
Gotcha.
I've been the great and peaceful mystery.
I've been Jay.
These guys are one of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed seeing them, hearing about them. Look them up, the pictures. They have the goofiest faces. They have big duck bills, and they're just goofy looking animals. All right, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Freaky Fauna Friday. If you want to help the podcast grow, remember to share and give it a 5-star review.